loving what you do is what, for me, created the resilience. Because if you're loving it, you're like, I can put up with this. And then you also say, you know what? Most people would never have been able to put up with this. So now I got to stick with it. I can't quit now.
And I love that word resilience. And I think that's an important thing for children, an important thing for young adults is to really understand resilience
Yeah.
because it's through many tries and many failings that you succeed. And if you are easily offended or, you're super sensitive, it's hard because you've got to get some thick skin and you've got to be willing to try and try and try until you can get it right.
Absolutely. And this is a great segue to Gigi becoming the CEO of the company. What year, what year did you become the CEO?
So that was, let's see, 2021.
All right. We got to have some more thick skin, right? When we're CEO of the company.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the CEO that was leaving, Guy Falzerano, told me that it's lonely at the top. And I didn't really believe him. You know how you kind of don't believe anybody? Well, it's really going to be hard being a parent. Or when you get married, and you always think, I'll be different, I'm going to be
Right.
different when I'm a parent. I'll be different when I'm a CEO. But it is because before I was part of a bigger team. And now ultimately I'm accountable to the board and on the board. But I don't have that team on my level around me. And I think too, with the work that we do working with young children, is that at night, if I really think about the responsibility that we have and the number of children that we take care of, I'm awestruck by it and very proud of the things that people do to create that trust and to keep children safe and secure every day, which is really the most important thing that we do. And then obviously after that is educating them and making sure that they have a good time and lots of fun.
It's a huge responsibility because you're up at night thinking about the kids who are at all these centers, the franchise owners that you're ultimately responsible for helping them succeed, your employees and making sure that there's a great culture and that they're supported. And then there's you. You have your leadership team and lonely at the top is not a topic that's talked about enough. I can say this so you don't have to. This is my personal opinion because when I went through lonely at the top syndrome, it was this. What made me lonely was that I couldn't share my thoughts openly to everybody because what was going on in my head, some of my decisions that I was contemplating were going to affect people's jobs. So I found myself, the walls were closing in tighter and tighter, right? There was a smaller group of people that I could talk to. And that's why having the opportunity to talking with other CEOs, whether you become part of like EO or YPO or Vistage or one of these other peer-to-peer groups is absolutely critical.
It is so critical. And I think it's also critical. So I do that. I think it's also critical to have a mentor and to be a mentor at all times. So I have an executive coach. And I will say when I was first promoted into this position, I was super excited. But then with a PE firm behind me, I feel like, I've got good reins on finance and technology and operations. But when they came, they brought a whole new level of financial information and intelligence. And it doesn't happen as much now, but definitely in the beginning where I felt very much like the imposter, like me?
We all do. We all do.
Are you electing me? Am I the one who's going to run this company? But then if you go back to what it is that you do well, that we talked about really in the beginning of this, Frank, is that really understanding where your strengths are and really understanding where your gaps are, making sure that you're empowering the people around you, creating a really supportive work environment, which we were really well known for at Lightbridge before COVID, letting people kind of come and go when they want and, making just sure they're getting that job done and recognizing that you go through all kinds of different seasons in your life because we want a lot of longevity here, which we do have here at the home office. It's really important to recognize who you are, what you need to know, what you need to learn, recognizing that I don't need to know everything, but I do need to trust that other people do, and a little bit of trust and verify too, right? And I think most importantly, empowering others to make decisions, knowing that sometimes the decisions they make won't be yours, and sometimes those decisions will be better than yours. Sometimes they won't be as good as yours, and you have to come after and help people kind of clean that up. But that's the only way they can learn as well.
Right. That's how we learned.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, when I think about it, is I've always been a teacher and always wanted to be a teacher. So when I went into education, it was not very favorable to my parents. They wanted me to do something else. But I recognize in the seat that I sit in now, even as CEO, that I'm a teacher of adults, whether that's the franchisee or whether that's the staff members or the consumer. And still sometimes I get an opportunity to be a teacher of children.
Well, that's who you are at your core.
Which is great. So it's good for training, it's good for support, it's good for mediation, it's good for all those pieces that we come in contact with on a daily basis.
Share with me what was going on when you were acting as COO and the company, I assume the CEO or founder was contemplating selling to private equity, and you went through that process of private equity, I assume. You must play a significant role in that. What was that like? Because there are founders that are listening to this also that are thinking, I might sell to private equity one day, and I'd love to get your quick take on that.
So there's this whole body of evidence and literature and information on the founder syndrome, which is basically that founder having created something and finding it valuable. And do they want to step away at some point? Or do they want to bring in other people to influence decisions? And I think it's super hard. I know it was hard for Guy, and he's a very collaborative man, to know that your baby, and I'll use that analogy here with early childhood education, I think it's very appropriate, but your baby of whatever it is that you founded as a company, that you're handing over to someone else, regardless of what financial compensation you get for that, or regardless of whether you're in a season of life where you want to spend more time with your family or travel or whatever it is. That was the heart and soul of who you were and what you created. And for many entrepreneurs who put in 60, 70, maybe even 80 crazy hours a week, more hours than there actually are in the week, letting someone else hold on to that and make decisions is super hard. However, I do think that, and I can't speak for Guy and I can't speak for founders, but I have founded some things that I've walked away from, certain organizations for women, and walked away because I was moving on to something else. But those organizations are continuing. So there's a quality of that financial value, and there's a quality of knowing that you created something that continues to grow. And it might grow not exactly the way you want it, or maybe it even grows better than what you envisioned, but you set it forth. And now there's another group of people with the resources and the capital to take it to a level that you really probably couldn't take it to on your own without that opportunity to do that.
I agree with that. I think, Gigi, that was so well said. It's really up to the individual person, whether it's going to meet their needs, because ultimately, I think that business is supposed to be, if you really love your business, you give it what it needs. That means sometimes it's not you. And if we really love our business, we realize that our business needs to be bigger than us. And hopefully our business outlives us. It becomes something far grander, right? Because we're ultimately serving other people. We're growing and we're contributing because it's not about us.
It isn't. And I love what you're saying there about serving other people. And I really do believe in the servant leadership. And one of the things that I say at every Discovery Day and with every new home office person that comes on board and every new director that we have at our company centers is I take the organizational chart that usually is the CEO up here and the C-suite VPs and all down cascading, and I turn it upside down and I put the CEO at the bottom and the C-suite and VPs and the teachers at the top, and say our job, and that's why we call it the home office, our job here is to support everyone in the field. Our job is to make their job easier. Now, oftentimes we make their job harder because we come up with these crazy ideas that we think are going to help them, and then they tell us, no, that was not helpful. And we need to change that. But overall, we exist to help them every day do a better job, and especially the people who are on the front line. So the people who are on the front line of any franchise, where they're the ones who are preparing the meal, or they're the ones who are cutting hair, or they're the ones who are caring for children, is that it's so important that those people really feel valued and that they love what they're doing as well. And so it's our responsibility to make them as comfortable as possible.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.